Company. Attention!
What's going on, guys? This is the first of 3 videos in a series covering the 40th anniversary semester of the One Shepherd Leadership Institute. This was day 1 of what was set to be the largest One Shepherd semester in its 40 years of existence. In part 1 of this video, I'll be following the One Shepherd students who attended the Warrior Advanced course, aka the WAC. The WAC is taught during the first 2 days of the semester to students who have already completed the Warrior Basic course.
So welcome to it. Welcome to our 40th year of service. We're wrapping up our 40th year. Very glad to have you. As you guys know, this is much bigger than our normal numbers. And if you think this is big, fine. It doubles on Wednesday night, right, for the FTX. So you will see these numbers quite literally double. All right. Glad to have you here. Let's go over some of the ground rules. Let's do safety first, all right?
Following formation, all students were issued their miles gear and weapons that they will need for the entirety of the semester.
I'm super excited.
Guys, what you want to do, once you're all zipped in, do a little jump up and down.
Once the WAC students were issued their gear, they'd be heading into the field for the first day and night. First period of instruction they would receive would be building Boscia Shelters for not only shelter but concealment from enemy observation, as well as the ability to convert them to provide some type of anti-thermal capability.
So essentially what it is, it's a fancy term for just creating a shelter. But why is it important that we speak about this and we actually create a time block here at One Shepherd to talk about the Boscia? Because here's the thing, there's so many ways to be able to make them. And we're not going to be able to get to all of them today, but I'm going to give you a couple ideas of how we're going to make it. We're also going to make one, we're going to set it up with the intent to reduce our thermal image, and we will be able to test that just to see how well we did. Right? Because we live in a world of technology. And even here in One Shepherd, there are individuals that bring their own thermal devices. Okay? And you may see some people like that out in the FTX here at One Shepherd. So it actually pays to be able to know the techniques of how to build your shelters, especially considering I believe everybody here will be for the STX. You know, one of the defense tactic, if you will, the defense concept we'll be learning is area defense. Okay? Which means we're going to be using these Boscia Shelters. So it's very, very important, and I love the fact that these 2 classes line up. Excuse me, bug in my mouth. These 2 line up because I think the timing is great. So we're going to get started. What are you going to need for Boscia Shelter? Well, the most primitive and easy way to do it is to use either a poncho or a tarp. Okay? There are actual military-grade Boscia Shelters that especially the British use, that has more reinforcements down the seams, and they're more designed specifically for what we're going to do. But you can go to a hardware store, get a camo tarp, and that works as well for some basic covering from the elements. Okay? Now, if you want to be able to reduce your thermal imaging, then you're going to need something that's going to be able to keep that heat down low, right? A normal tarp isn't going to be able to form like that. And so we're going to be using a tarp, you'll see in a minute, that has a mylar, which is like the space blankets, you know, the silver little cheap space blankets. It's all mylar, and it's built into this one. Now, if you have a space blanket in a tarp, you can layer it, right? Obviously, the space blanket's below because it's shiny and bright. You put that, you can layer it to be able to have that to reduce your thermal imaging signature, as well as still be able to have protection from the elements. All right, I will need you to move those because we're gonna. Well, no, you know, I'm sorry, you're right. We're gonna string it between this tree, and we're gonna string to this tree. Now, this is that tarp I told you that has a mylar built in on the back side, right? OD green. You see that OD green on one side, mylar on the back side here. This is a mylar tarp, so it provides that thermal, can hold in the thermal, your heat, your body heat, as well as this has a permanently sewed artillery net on top of it. Okay, this is Getter's personal one. You don't normally buy them like this, but you can buy the 2, sew them in together. He's got it sewn in around the outer seam right here. If everybody can see, he's got it sewn in the outer seam really well, right? And it just flops over. This is what we're gonna make our first Boscia Shelter out of, and this one is going to be more obviously designed for reducing our thermal imaging. Now, there are different heights that we could put this. If we want to reduce our thermal imaging, what would probably be, what do you think would make sense to be an appropriate height?
2 to 3 feet off the ground.
2 to 3 feet off the ground. So we're looking about right here.
After the instructor finished demonstrating how to create one, the students then turned to building their own.
Trying to figure that out. Here, hold on. Yep. With your notional.
Yeah, here's got my notional rifle.
Your notional rifle, yeah. You bring both?
Yeah, I carry a poncho on my butt pack, and then this stays with my. You got a med kit on your person? You?
Yeah, so actually,
I took it back and put it on something. Alright, so.
oh, hold on, let me. That's the problem.
Next few classes would be covering the use of listening and observation posts,
hold on,
creating a
yeah.
hot loop for the field phones, and water purification.
So that's the same idea in that element. So an OPLP essentially is a post, is a control measure that is used in a defense in order to provide early warning of impending imminent enemy attack or enemy activity in our AO, in our operation.
Now, everybody should have gone through WBC already, so you should already have an introduction to the TA1 field phones. That's what they are. And right now, all I'm doing is that I actually cut off a piece of this, because what we're going to do is we're just going to do what's called a hot loop, and essentially that's a three-way connection to these phones. As you may have already experienced, is that we do usually a point-to-point, right? One phone to another phone to the other phone. But we're going to learn how to do a hot loop, so where we can connect another phone to this and make it a three-way. So let's go ahead and ask, what are some ideas you guys think of why this would be useful?
Easier to manage.
Easier to manage?
And 2 phones manage 1.
Okay, yep, 2 phones can manage 1, so you can have 2 reporting back to 1 versus
LPs.
2 phones in the station.
Have
Or
the two LPs maybe communicate to each other on something?
Right, so you could have 2 LPOPs communicating to each other versus having to relay it from another station, right? Which would, in our sense, in our terms, in our typical scenarios, it's usually back to the PB, right?
40 liters of water or something like that? It's a lot of water. You do a bunch with these too. It's a lot of water.
So we need to think about too, what are we worried of when we're talking about purifying water? What are we worried about there being in the water that we don't want to drink?
Urine.
Microscopic
cryptosporidian organisms.
Microorganisms. Yeah, there's basically 2 kinds of things. There's chemical contaminants, okay? So maybe somebody just sprayed this field with Roundup or I don't know what, and you get that in the water. That's usually not quite as big a concern, because if they're in the water to levels that are going to hurt you, and we're talking about being in the field a few days. We're not talking about every day I drank trace amounts of this and I got cancer. We're talking about for a few days. If there's enough chemical contaminant that it's going to harm you in a short period of time, you're probably going to see evidence of it. Like, hey, that whole field's brown and dead. Maybe I don't want to drink water. The main thing we're concerned about is biological contaminants. Some kind of bug, amoeba. Giardia is the big one people talked about. Giardia is carried by beavers. It's also carried by humans. People always talk about, oh, those beavers carry Giardia. It's primarily carried by humans. Some parts of the world, cholera is a thing. Cholera has probably killed more people than,
Guns.
Probably more than guns. Cholera was pretty much eliminated when they figured out that it came from the water. And they learned to basically bring water from upstream and stop drinking their sewage. So what we're going to do, part of the reason why we're using this spot is there's a spot right here. We've got a spring coming out of the ground. Let me grab the canteen. So when we're picking, we're talking about surface water here. When we're picking a place to purify surface water, we want to think about what we're getting. If it's draining out of the cow lot, you probably don't want to drink it. If it's right below somebody's latrine, you don't want to drink it. Always, like old cowboy thing, always drink upstream from the herd. I like this spring because when you go and you look at it, the water level is higher than the creek. Most of the time of year when you come here, the water is actually flowing from that spring into the creek. So whatever's coming, whatever animal's crapping in that water, hopefully it's being flushed out. So the cleaner the water is to start with, the less pathogens we have to filter out with your Sawyer Catadine thing or kill with your iodine. I fill it about half full. I believe that takes 2 tablets. 2 per quart. I'm going to shake that up.
iodine we use? This is iodine?
This is, what is in those? Is it iodine?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then I want to, when I get those tablets good and dissolved, I want to loosen the cap. And I want water, basically I want that purified water to flush out the threads on my canteen.
Okay.
Because that's the cross-contamination I was talking about. So now everything in here should be good. The outside, of course, is still untreated water. And you're supposed to let this sit for 30 minutes.
Next, we'd roll right into an in-depth class over radio theory and application.
I'm going to encourage you guys to volunteer to carry the radio any chance you get. Because when you're carrying the radio, you are attached at the hip to the patrol leader, and you get to see everything that's going on. You get to see every decision he makes. You know, it's like being the catcher at the baseball game. Catcher knows more of what's going on in the field than anybody at any other position. And it's just a phenomenal learning experience. Just gonna do a quick review on how to use this, how to change the batteries. Okay. This antenna here. Okay, do you hear that? That's telling you that the antenna is not tuned. So you need to turn this until it shuts up. And that's really all there is to it. So you can hit the push to talk, test, test.
The last formal class that these WAC students would receive for the day would be over individual camouflaging techniques taught by none other than me.
Okay, we're going to go through, we're going to cover all those individually. First thing we're going to talk about is silhouette. What does silhouette mean to you?
It means the outline of something, particularly when it's vacuum.
Perfect. Good. Everybody understand that?
Yep.
Okay, so what would be some examples that are very recognizable to the human eye?
The human body.
The human body, right?
A firearm.
So when you think of what is the ultimate, like, camouflage in breaking up the human body, what do you think of? A ghillie suit. Right now, or stand up.
Oh shit.
Like that, right?
Pick it up.
Hell yeah.
All right. So a ghillie suit, whole purpose is to break up the human silhouette. Okay? You guys had no idea he was there, right?
Not at all.
So,
That was awesome.
so weapons, helmets, the shape of a helmet, the shape of NVGs, stuff like that, gear, flax, knives, stuff that's unnatural, that shape of it will draw attention because your eyes are, whether you realize it or not, your eyes will pick that stuff up, right? Because our brain sees that stuff and perceives it as danger, right? We all perceive weapons as dangerous, right? Because we can be killed by them, all right? Those are the tools that we live by. Okay, so when you see that stuff in nature, your brain automatically draws to it. It'll pick it out amongst a bunch of stuff, okay? So that's why guys do stuff like, you know, camouflaging weapons, spray painting weapons, all right, to break up the outline, that very recognizable outline of something like a weapon. There's a couple things we can do to break up the shape of, let's say, weapons, gear, helmets, things of that nature, okay? A helmet is a very recognizable thing. Have you guys ever seen somebody just based off their helmet?
Yes.
Right? It's very recognizable. One way we can break up the helmet is with a helmet cover, okay? Spray painting the helmet, adding something like a cami netting. This is very easy. You just get some cami netting, cut a square, place it over the Kevlar, and then you can secure it with zip ties, okay? So that's something that's very easy to do. Your MVG Rhino mount, you know, it typically comes in all black, but again, it's not a very natural looking shape, right? It's kind of oddly shaped. Just doing something as simple as spray painting that can help break that up, all right? Make it less recognizable, less easily detectable by the human eye. Some other things with weapons. There's stuff like this, okay? This is called camo form. You also have, you know, like natural burlap type material. You can wrap stuff like this around buttstocks, hand guards, things like that to help break up. If you got an all black rifle, you want to break up that shape of that rifle, you'd use something like camoform or burlap or tape. In Vietnam, the LRPs, they just use regular like green duct tape, right? And they just duct tape strips around that rifle to help break up that outline, okay? That's what they have, that's what they use. So you can talk to Dr. Christopher Larson, and he will tell you like of the 100 different camouflage patterns around the world, all right? Like the Scandinavian S, the fucking African O, and all kinds of crazy shit, all right? I'm just gonna show you 3. These are kind of the 3 that the US military use on a routine basis, okay? And that's splotching, striping, and a combination of the 2, okay? All right, you good? All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cover the shadow areas with a light color. And what do I mean by shadow areas? Shadow areas are places like the eye sockets, underneath the nose, underneath the chin, places that when the sun hits your face, it casts a shadow, all right? The eye socket casts a shadow because the sun hits your eyebrow, right? And it puts a shadow in there. So we're gonna take our lighter colors and we're gonna fill those in those areas. Okay, close your eyes. All right, now this is gonna be the splotching technique. So we're just doing big splotches, all right? So now I'm gonna take my dark colors and I'm gonna hit the prominent areas, the areas that stick out the most. And that's gonna be the nose, the cheekbones, and the forehead, and the chin. Now, when we're doing the splotching technique, it's just that. It's big splotches. All right. Once you're done, don't forget extremities like your ears. All right. Somebody else can finish up on him, and then you make sure you just tie it all in. Okay. Any questions on the splotching technique? All right, questions. Striping. All right, last one. Come up here. All right, we see how that works? We got a combination of splotches. So I used brown for the splotches. I used the green on the lighter or shadow areas, and then I just used the black as the striping portion. Okay, you good?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna eat chow, and then everybody's gonna cam you up.
I'll take a little bit of that. Yeah, you can have all the green you want, man. I'll put my rifle right beside you.
Yeah, you're a master. You actually had green?
Right here.
I do now.
Following my class, the students would be given a frago for a mission that was to be taking place at night. That mission was to conduct a resupply by departing their patrol base and retrieving 2 speedballs that had been dropped at 2 different grid locations. While waiting for the sun to go down, the students would be out there conducting rehearsals while the leaders were planning their route.
We're going to kick it 180 south to the fence line. It should be quick because we have the telephone poles cleared. We're going to head, it's supposed to be 230 west to the first objective. Team 2, that's us. We're going to hold objective B and set security. We have some phase lines set up. Team 1 is going to continue and head to Alpha, retrieve the objective, and they're going to phase line back.
I'm limited on the footage of this mission, but the WAC students ended up hitting both of their grids only to find out that the speedballs were no longer there. To top things off, they took contact from an enemy force, which in this case was the Warrior Basic Course, conducting their own night mission. All in all, the students received good practical application in conducting an operation during a nighttime environment and learned a valuable lesson that things don't always go as planned. The class would later find out that their speedballs had been stumbled upon by the Warrior Basic guys, who assumed that they were enemy weapons caches and subsequently took them with them. Following the mission, the WAC students would return to the patrol base, spending the night in the field and maintaining security throughout the night and practicing stand 2. Once the morning came, the students returned to the FOB where they began to receive 2 brand new courses that were just recently introduced into the One Shepherd Leadership Institute. And that is over the Squad Designated Marksman Rifle and the Light Support Weapon, aka the LSW.
So this is from TC 2314. This is a sniper's job is to deliver discriminatory, high accuracy rifle fire against enemy targets, which because of range, size, location, fleeting nature, or visibility cannot be engaged successfully by the rifleman. And then from the Marine Corps side, snipers have an additional duty of intelligence gathering. Note the USMC designation of Scout Sniper. as opposed to sharpshooter. SDM, trained to engage targets from 300 to 500 meters. That's not super far out there. He will operate and maneuver as a rifleman, but have the added responsibility of engaging targets out to 500 meters with effective, well-aimed fires. The SDM is a vital member of the squad and not a squad sniper. SDM has neither the equipment nor the training to engage targets at extended ranges with precision fires while operating individually or in a small team. So you're going to have overlaps, okay, but you're going to have differences. The primary difference is where they're organized, what their job is. A squad designated sniper or marksman is in support of his squad. He's not out hunting in Indian country. The left-hand turret, it's got numbers 1 to 11. So this one does go to 11. So, and you can turn it from 0 either direction. So if it's a bright daylight and you want to go from 0 to 11, turn it this way. If it's just getting dusk and you want to turn it from 0 to 1, turn it that way. The right-hand cap, I don't want you guys to like mess with the scope itself, but it has a spare battery inside of it. Might be good to know. I don't know what the life of these batteries is, but I assume it's pretty good. Got a throw leveler on the top. I'm going to recommend when you're patrolling, you probably want it set on 0 power. And when you get set up to take a long shot, all the way to the higher power. We've got these Magpul bipods on them. I'm not crazy about it, but it beats sharp stick in the eye, I guess. One of the things you should be aware of when you're using a bipod is you're going to need to lock it into something and load it forward. Don't just let it rest. So like if I can take the gap between these floorboards and I can lean into it a little bit. These Magpul bipods are especially flimsy. They really don't work at all unless you load them pretty steady. And then typically, I'm going to bring my support hand when I'm using a bipod back under the butt of the rifle. If I've got a sock full of sand or something that I can use to help steady at the butt, that's even better.
Hey, this is the very first LSW class ever taught at One Shepherd. So I had to shoot from the hip on a lot of this, right? Cut me some slack, okay? However, I was an 0331. For those of you that follow my YouTube channel, 0331 stands for what?
Marine Corps machine gunner.
That's MOS, Military Occupational Specialty for machine gunner. All right, so when I first came to the Marine Corps, I was an 0331 machine gunner. Now in the Marine Corps, as you promote and become a staff NCO, you become an 0369 infantry platoon leader. Okay, so I'm no longer considered a machine gunner. However, that's my roots. However, I want to make a distinct difference. There's a distinct difference between a machine gun and an automatic rifle. Okay, that is a point that I'm going to be stressing through this class. However, there are lots of similarities. Lots of similarities. And you can employ these automatic rifles in similar fashions. Okay? Alright, so just our terminal learning objectives here. We're going to understand what the LSW is and what its history of use from World War I to present, including its use here at One Shepherd. We're going to understand what a One Shepherd platoon / squad composition and makeup and where the LSW falls into that. We're going to understand the roles of the LSW gunner in the One Shepherd rifle squad. We're going to understand target priorities and precedents, which we've already talked about here in the previous class, right? And target identifications pertaining to the LSW gunner. So in the previous class, you talked about the designated marksman and what he's looking for, his priorities. Well, we're going to talk about what the automatic rifleman's priorities are, right? Because not everybody in the rifle squad wants to kill the same people. If everybody wants to kill the same people, well then what about everybody else, right? If everybody's shooting at the fucking patrol leader, what about everybody else in the freaking squad, okay? So there's target precedence for what your mission or what your job is in that rifle squad. We're going to understand the LSW's role in the offense as well as the defense. So those are our terminal learning objectives today. Does anybody have any questions over those? Alright, starting off, history of the LSW and its use from World War I to present, and here at One Shepherd. So starting off with World War I. By the way, who knows what picture that is? It's an illustration. Belleau Wood, right? It's Marines sticking freaking whole hard steel into a German's chest. Ah! Alright, next. Alright, World War I, machine guns. Look at that thing. Everybody see that thing? What does that look like to you?
Looks big.
Big, heavy, fucking tripods and shit. You can't transport that easily, right?
No.
It takes a whole crew, i.e. crew serve weapon. Okay? That was the machine gun of World War I. And today there's very many similarities between that. Okay? But the big thing I want you guys to take away from this is it is big. It's heavy. Alright? It's large. Not easily portable. Crew serve. So the introduction of the automatic rifle starts in World War I. Who knows what this thing is called? No, we got a lot of little history buffs in here, right? What's the country origin?
French.
It's French, right?
Following my LSW class, the students of the WAC would be issued LSWs as well as SDM rifles and would join in with the other students for the other courses being taught for a final force-on-force training lane to put into practice what they had just learned about these respective weapons. At the conclusion of the force-on-force lane, it is vital and necessary for learning to conduct an AAR, so that the students can discuss what happened, as well as what went right and what went wrong.
Of movement. You guys did a great job over here, just from what I saw, and we'll get into that. Leaders, in the static defense, what did you guys see?
Listen up, fellas. Down the creek, man. We saw a little bit of strategy on the left and right.
Okay, who was your vanguard?
Sorry?
Who did you guys send out?
We were actually in the rear, so...
Who are the guys that went out? How did that go? How far did you guys punch up?
Punch out 20-25 meters, took heavy contact, start retrograding back until we hit the machine gun position and hold fast from there.
Were you guys both made it back alive? You guys were able to get back into your lines?
3 out of 4 made it back.
Okay,
then, yeah.
okay, that's good.
After the AAR, the final event of the day was the patching ceremony, welcoming the new graduates of the Basic Warriors course into the One Shepherd community. Well, that concludes part 1, guys, of this coverage over the Warriors Advanced course at the 40th anniversary semester of the One Shepherd Leadership Institute. Be sure to stay tuned. Part 2 will cover the next 2 days of training over the Situational Training Exercise, or STX. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave a comment.